the obstacles that we encounter, which was one of the questions that we were asked last week. So Lama Karma said that he would not talk about it because it was coming up, and that's tonight with Lama Tom Broadwater as our teacher tonight. So welcome, Lama Tom, and turn it over to you.
Yeah, so why don't we start with refuge? And you want to put that up on the...
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
you want to go to the refuge prayer itself?
Yeah, let's do that first, if that's okay.
Okay.
Let's just do that. And then we'll do the other prayer.
Okay, good.
Okay, so until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Noble Sangha. To the merit of accomplishing the six perfections, may I achieve enlightenment, awakening for the benefit of all. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Noble Sangha. To the merit of accomplishing the six perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. To the merit of accomplishing the six perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. If we'll do the short. May all beings gain happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May all beings experience great joy and free from suffering. May all beings come to rest in the great equanimity, having the same great love for all. We'll do that just once. And then the Vajradhara prayer.
Did you want to go back to the refuge or to the
Vajradhara prayer, if you don't mind?
Oh, okay. Give me just a moment.
That's all right.
Okay.
Great Vajradhara, Telo, Naru, Marpa, Milarepa, the Lord of the Dharma Lord Gampopa, knower of the 3 times Kamapa, and the lineage holders of the elder 4 and younger 8. The Drikun, the Tata, Salpa, glorious Drupa, and so forth, who have gained mastery of the profound path, Mahamudra. O Kaju Gurus, heed my prayer. Your lineage I uphold. O Kaju Gurus, heed my prayer. Your lineage I uphold. Please bless me so I may adopt your ways of liberation, just as revulsions taught to be the legs of meditation. This meditator does not cling to any food or wealth and severs all the ties that bind me to this present life. Please bless me to be unattached to honor and to gain, just as devotions taught to be the head of meditation. Continually, this meditator supplicates the Guru, who opens up the doorway to the trove of pith instructions. Please bless me so that uncontrived devotion may well forth, as non-distractions taught to be the core of meditation. This meditator just remains not altering at all the fresh and pristine essence of whatever thoughts occur. Please bless me to be free from thinking there's a meditation. Just as is taught, the essence of all thought is Dharmachakra, not anything at all, and yet arising in all ways, appearing for this meditator as unceasing play. Bless me to know samsara and nirvana are not two. In all my future lives, may I never be apart from the authentic gurus and embrace the Dharma's glory. May I perfect the qualities of all the paths and levels. And may I swiftly realize the states of Vajradhara. Thank you and good evening. I don't know where you all come from, but I'm coming from Ohio, near Columbus, Ohio. And I'm, again, don't know what your weather's like, but here it's down in 4 degrees or 5 degrees. So it's very cold here and it's evening. But wherever you are, at whatever time zone you're in, whatever part of the world you are in, welcome to tonight's talk. And it is going to be about obstacles. The other thing I want to say here is that if you have any questions as we go along, you can put them in chat or wait until the very end, and you can raise your hand and deal with it that way. So anyway, again, we're going to talk about the obstacles that occur as a result of or when we are meditating. I should introduce myself. My name is Tom Broadwater, and I assist Lama Kathy at her center in Columbus, Ohio. I have that privilege to do that. I get to actually give a talk this weekend. So anyway, I begin by saying that the first teaching that Buddha ever gave was very simple. It was, as you probably know, do no harm, practice virtue, and tame your mind. In order to practice virtue, in order to avoid doing harm, we have to tame our mind. And this is what meditation is all about. So what I want to do tonight is start out with a short meditation, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, not long. If you're sitting in a chair, that's fine. Just sit in such a way that you're firmly grounded to that chair. Your legs firmly on the ground, and your back not against the chair, but straight up. So the first thing is your posture is what you're doing with your legs. The next thing is called drawing up. Kembakarta Rinpoche spoke about this. It's basically tightening the sphincter muscle and then relaxing. The idea here is basically to stabilize yourself, to ground yourself. He also said to put your hands down with palms on your knees, or you can hold them below the navel, the left hand cupping the right hand. The most important thing in meditation posture is your back. It should be straight. Your chin slightly tucked in, your tongue against the upper palate, and your gaze should be a soft gaze. And what that means is that you're not focusing on anything in particular, and sort of off your nose, say 14 to 18 inches, Just let that be a soft gaze. The first thing we should do, and so that's the posture. Preliminaries to any meditation is to recall your intention in terms of meditating. And your intention is to meditate. And that means not entertaining thoughts of past, present, or future, just being present. And the second thing is we want to recall our motivation. And the very best motivation is to want to benefit yourself and all beings. So that's how we should begin. The mental technique is fairly simple. Place your awareness on your breath or an object of your meditation. It may be a rock, a stone, a twig, or whatever, or a statue of the Buddha. In most cases, it's going to be our breath. And so you can count the exhalations, up to 11 or 21 and return to 1. You don't have to count. And if you're a long-time meditator, you probably don't want to count, and that's okay too. So let's take 5 minutes and just calm our mind a little bit by meditating. Thank you. So the other part to that instruction is that when your mind strays, as it does, into thought, you simply recognize it. Don't engage in the thought. You don't, when I say that, it's inevitable that thoughts arise. Don't be concerned or upset about that. They're not a problem that they arise. The problem is we engage in them. So for example, you hear a sound and it's your dog barking. You say, "Oh, there goes Lucy. There she's barking." Blah 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 blah, and go on and on with that thought. That's engaging in thought. Simply noticing and hearing a bark is not a problem. Again, it's when we engage in it. So tonight I'm going to talk about obstacles to meditation. First of all, I'm going to talk about the obstacles in forming the habit, and then the obstacles we meet within the meditation itself. This may be for veteran meditators somewhat elementary, but I've always found that when I go back to elements of meditation, I sometimes learn something. So be patient if you are a veteran meditator. We'll get to you. So let's start with the obstacles we meet when we're trying to establish our meditation. Let's look at, like I said, the practical aspects to getting the habit, getting into the habit of meditation. And the very first problem is no special place to meditate. So we have to have a place dedicated to meditation. So we find that place, some place within your home, set apart, away from normal traffic. That'll be your sacred space, and that's where you meditate. That's your meditation area. We could talk about what you might put in that sacred space, but that would be probably a talk for another time. If we have time at the end and you want to ask that question, I'll be glad to answer it. But otherwise, we'll wait till you wait till the end or another time. So the next obstacle is time for meditation. If you get up in the morning and say, I'll meditate sometime today without an established time, the day's going to slip by. If you have no special time, then that strategy is very vulnerable. You're vulnerable to just the events of the day. So establish a time. Many people do it first thing in the morning because they're fresh. Others do it after work. It's less important that to when you do it as to the fact that you do set a time. So again, part of establishing a habit of meditation is to have a time and a place. So the other thing we want to do, it sounds fundamental, but we want to establish a habit of meditation. Why? Well, if you have a habit of meditation, you're less sensitive to rewards and good circumstances. Without a habit, when we meet a rough spot, we're likely just to discontinue the practice, and we do that fairly quickly. So it's important to establish a habit. So the next obstacle we meet is that we may not know how to, in practical ways, to create a habit of meditation. This habit formation can take a month. It can take 6 weeks. I used to hear people say it would, if you do something 21 times, it becomes a habit. Well, I've learned that's not so. People are different and take different amount of times. But it can take anywhere from a month to 6 months to establish your habit. So you create the habit of meditation just like you create any other habit. So let's say you're going to practice in the morning. So become aware of all the unconscious morning rituals you do. Place your meditation sometime within these morning habit patterns. So, for example, I make tea before I brush my teeth and take a shower. So I've located my meditation time between those two ritual periods, between my tea, which I take into my shrine room, and then I take a shower. This may sound a little silly, but it's not. You could reinforce that habit if you're new to this habit of meditation. You could further reinforce that with a visual cue. So, for example, you could put on your shower door or your shower curtain, do not enter until until you've meditated. Or if coffee's the next ritual you perform, put on your coffee pot. Don't start me up until you've meditated. Again, that sounds silly, but visual cues can be really helpful, and I recommend it. I've done it myself. Habits, of course, make life much easier. There's less need for personal sense or for choice. You just do it. That's a slogan. Just do it. Behavior becomes automatic. You don't say when you brush your teeth, step 1, I put paste on the brush. Step 2, water on the brush. And step 3 is I use an up and down motion on my teeth. These steps are mindless and automatic. Making a habit of meditation means that you will meditate at a certain time and a certain place, and you'll do that automatically. But here's the habit is good because it makes it automatic. But a habit can also be there's a downfall in that you do things automatically. So when you come into your sacred space to meditate, that's when habitual habits cease to be important. There you go into your shrine room very fresh and very mindful of what you're going to do. You really want to be alert and fully alive. So that's important. And those attitudes, by the way, differ from habit. There's other important aspects to forming habits. For example, all successful habit forming has a goal. And in this case, our goal is to develop a quiet, calm mind that is pliable. I think that's what everybody's looking for when they first begin to meditate. They want that quiet, pliable, calm mind, less reactive. To accomplish that goal, our intermediate goal is to develop an ease to return to the breath when our thoughts occur. So that's the work, you might say, of meditation, to develop an ease of returning to the breath when thoughts arise. This also is how you gauge your progress. With what ease do I return to my breath? Another way to express our longer term goal is developing a mind that can rest quietly in itself in a natural way. This is all implied when you make the initial intention to meditate. That intention or similar goals need to be explicitly stated each time you meditate. It's really important to establish your goal. I'm going to meditate. Why? To benefit myself and all beings through my effort to calm my mind. So again, the absolute best motivation for meditating is you want to do it for all beings. In particular, you want to benefit those who you are intimate with and those within your circle of influence. It's when we say all beings, that can be very vague, but we want to be very cognizant of the people that we are intimate with, that we want to benefit them, and those within our circle of influence. And that's important to do that every time you sit down. Now, about posture and mental technique. Initially, as a beginner, you're very conscious of posture and mental technique, but eventually muscle memory and habit will assume a place with these. But every once in a while, it's not bad to check. Is my posture good? Am I following the technique? Is it proper? Am I doing it as I've been instructed? The other thing that I think is important is when you're forming a habit, you adopt an identity. I'm a meditator. I may not be perfect, but I'm a meditator. I identify as a meditator, and thereby, through that identity, certain behavior follows, like meditation. One of the greatest obstacles for a beginner is this thought that arises, particularly among beginners, that I can't do this. This is too difficult. If I try, I won't succeed. I had the person who talked to me a couple weeks ago, and he's been meditating for a long time. He said, this thought continually arises in my mind. What do I do about that? So I said to him, when that thought arises, treat it as any other thought. Don't engage in it. Just don't engage in it. Let it go. Treat it as any other thought. Don't try to analyze. Don't try to engage with it. Just return to your breath. If this kind of defeatist attitude pervades in all your life and causes major disruption, you may need to analyze it, but off the cushion. You may need to talk to a person you trust, even a professional. But in meditation, you treat every thought equally. You don't engage with it. Now, spiritually, what can assist you in developing confidence are the teachings of the Buddha, particularly on Buddha nature and on Tonglen. We don't have time to go into any of these, but in future, and I think maybe in some past talks, these have been worked on. Another attitude that causes us difficulty and obstacles as we begin to meditate is impatience. We want quick results. That's just the way we are. We're built that way. We want quick results. And we have feelings of frustration if when we sit down to meditate, there's a preponderance of thoughts and distractions. And that will happen when you're first meditating. That there will be a lot of thoughts, just a waterfall of thoughts. But that's just part of the practice of working with that. And we have patience with it. Go slow is the slogan I like. Let's take a worldly example. What would happen if a beginning tennis player had this defeatist attitude, and every time they didn't return a ball, they got down on their hands and knees and said, I'm no good, it's too hard, I can't do that. Well, they'd never become a tennis player. So on our road to becoming a veteran meditator, we may become lost in thought and in fact have many thoughts. And what do? We trust the technique. We trust the technique and return to the breath. Trust the technique. So rather than seeing such thoughts as a defeat, see each return to the breath as a success. Because at this point, that's what meditation is all about. To counter our impatience, the best attitude, as I said, is slow as you go. Don't try to push progress, which we here again are defining as ease to returning to the breath. All the great masters, including Khenpo Rinpoche, instructs beginners to have short sessions many times. You probably heard that if you're a veteran meditator. Short sessions many times. And when I looked at that in Dharma Pass, which is Khenpo Rinpoche's book, in Dharma Pass, his advice could mean that within one session, you might have little mini sections, you might say. So let's say you do 5 minutes, and that's been your habit for a while, and you want to extend it to 10 minutes. Well, after 5 minutes, stop. Don't meditate. Just relax for a moment, and then take on the next 5 minutes as your meditation. So it's short sessions within a larger session. That could also mean short sessions throughout the day. But here, I think it could mean just short sessions within one session. The important thing is in all of this, and the masters, the meditation masters say this over and over, when you get up from your meditation cushion, you want to still be a friend of your meditation. And if you spent too long on the cushion and say, oh my gosh, I never want to do this again, well, that's not being a friend to your meditation. So again, the point is short sessions and mini sessions. The other thing I think it's important is to recognize that there's going to be upheavals throughout this process. You may be going along, oh, everything's really nice, you're just really good, you're not so reactive to things, and it's just beautiful. And then all of a sudden, some very strong emotional upheaval occurs, and you have a negative response to that. Maybe even you carry that into the meditation on the meditation cushion. And again, say you do have a negative response. You know, this is part of it. Why does that happen? Well, we have these negative habits. And what do they say about habits? Habits are hard to break. So if we have a habit of anger, lust, greed, whatever your cup of tea is, uh, you may be on the cushion and you may see you're being less reactive off the cushion, and all of a sudden it erupts again. That's not the, and you have a negative response, not to worry. We'll have these emotional upheavals from time to time. What do? Well, you just acknowledge their existence. Uh, and in the presence of the Buddhas, you say, this is what I've done. You don't hide them. You don't hide your faults. You expose them to the Buddhas. Allow yourself natural regret without wallowing in guilt. That's not very skillful. It doesn't help besides. And if you can make amends, sometimes you can't make amends, but if you can, you do. And in all cases, excuse me, you apply a remedy. Say, for example, you have lots of anger. Well, the remedy there is to begin practicing virtue of patience. And then finally, resolve to avoid such strong reactions in the future. Just make that resolve. In Dharma Paths, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said, no matter how aggressive we have been or how unskillful we have been, there is a spark of goodness within each and every one of us. So we continue to cultivate that goodness within the meditation and within our lives, despite the upheavals that occur. So upheavals are not necessarily a sign that meditation has been a failure. They're just a sign that we have to do more work. Take, for example, I'm using these athletic examples, and I don't have an athletic gene in my body, but I'll, I'll use this. I'll use this example. If in Ohio, the big team is the Buckeyes. So if every time they lost yardage, they felt defeated, or if every time they lost a game, they felt hopeless, success would elude them. Same with us in meditation. We have these upheavals. The other thing that's important to do is don't compare yourself to others. Spoiler alert here. Some will be better, some will be equal, and some will be lesser than you in meditation. The only person you should be minding is yourself. And again, for beginners, progress is gauged by the ease with which you come back to your breath, as we said before. So let's take another pause. Let's do another short meditation, 3 or 4 minutes. So recall the posture, recall your goal, recall your motivation, recall the technique, the mental technique of placing your awareness on your breath, and when thoughts arise, we simply return to our breath. Be relaxed, but alert, aware. The mind resting naturally. Thank you. So far we've looked at practical steps to take and attitudes to adopt when we're facing obstacles to meditation. Now in this second part, I want to go into very specific obstacles that we're going to inevitably come up against when we are actually meditating. There are two main obstacles that interfere with the effectiveness and steadiness of our meditation. By the way, this information is cited in the instructions given to meditation students at Columbus KTC. So there's nothing original in what I say here, and it's also in the sutras. So much of this teaching is from our lineage masters, our meditation masters. So in one sutra, the obstacle of wildness or restlessness is cited. And this happens when we are strongly involved in an emotion such as anger, aggression, attachment, and so forth. Or we've had some sort of exciting conversation or physical activity. Our minds are liable to be wild and restless. You ever had that happen to you when you sat down to meditate? Sure. So when wildness or agitation's happening, you may place yourself in a meditative posture, but you just don't seem to settle down. In fact, when you try to straighten your position, your position, or become a little tighter, thinking that will help, you only become more agitated. All of this, of course, is pretty frustrating. And if you keep going like that, you're likely to become even more angry and more frustrated. So the sutras recommend that we lower our gaze even further and relax. When we're wild, when there's lots of turmoil going on, relax, lower your gaze. Just relax, let your head down, and gently close your eyes. At this point, your breath should be gentle, all the time natural, but gentle. Then your breath, visualize your breath becoming a dark substance, very subtle. And as you exhale, that goes down into the invisible depths of the earth. Visualize as you inhale this dark and almost invisible air, that this dark breath pervades your whole body. And you repeat this a couple times until you feel more normal and calmer. Then resume your standard posture and relate to your breath as before. The other obstacle is sluggishness, and we've all felt that. Sometime we have to, maybe the situation is that we are meditating in a place that's a little too warm or humid. It could be a physical problem. So what you do there is, if you can, um, open the window or take off some of your clothes, things of this sort. Maybe you've stuffed yourself with a lot of food and you're feeling sluggish that way. And so when that happens, if you try to meditate in your normal position, you feel like you're being pulled down, and your breath becomes sort of disconnected and vague. So what do you do in that situation? Okay, this is sounds very simple, but it is true. Exert some effort. Straighten your position more than ever. Look upward with your eyes. And if you can have a light above you, that's really good too. If not, just visualize bright light above you. Then imagine your breath in the form of a very bright light going out to the universe. As you inhale, imagine that bright light enters you and lights you up, sort of like a light bulb. In this way, you'll feel more aware, more alert. And so you do this a few times to get awake, to be more alert. And when you feel fairly normal, you drop this and return to your normal position and relate to your breath as before. So in both cases of agitation and sluggishness, when the sense of normalcy returns because of your actions that you've taken, just return to your normal meditation. Now let's look at some other situations. Sometimes, and this happens even to veteran meditators, sometimes we begin our meditation very smoothly. Everything seems to be just in sync, you might say. And then somewhere halfway between in the meditation, everything becomes very disorganized and there's thoughts that just proliferate. This may be that in your meditation itself, you are overexerting yourself, being too, I guess the word might be too vigilant, too tight. You're trying too hard, either in your technique or your position. And in that situation, no matter what you do, you just make yourself more tense. And so the sutras say you need to loosen or relax your position and your mind. Just relax. That's important. While you want to be alert and awake, you also want to be relaxed. That's a tricky thing, but that's what we are striving for in our meditation, to be alert, aware, and also relaxed, at ease. So other people have the opposite problem in meditation. At first, they are very uncomfortable. They have quite a few thoughts, and then gradually, towards the end of the session, they feel really relaxed. They are having fewer and fewer thoughts. In fact, by this time, you would welcome, in fact, a continuation of the practice. So the advice here is make some initial adjustments by being a little bit more relaxed initially. If you notice when you sit down that things are busy and things are going on, lots of thoughts, your body's sort of jittery and so forth, what you do is notice that and relax a bit. And that's also a sign that you might, if this is what's happening to you, it might be a time to actually begin prolonging your session a bit. So if you think about it, meditation is a process of balancing looseness and tightness. The saying goes, not too loose, not too tight. I think that's Mingyur Rinpoche's slogan, not too loose, not too tight. In fact, that's sort of a good motto for our lives, isn't it? Going through life, not too tight, not too loose, just alert but relaxed. That's it. That would be a good way to go through life, wouldn't it? It's a right balance. So um, this right balance is like leveling out these peaks of both dullness and agitation. So sometimes we peak into dullness, sometimes we sort of peak in agitation. And so when we have that balance, we cut off those peaks in that agitation or dullness. So, what's the key to this balance? Well, as we know, meditation is non conceptual. In meditation, we are not thinking, not analyzing, not criticizing. It's non conceptual, but there is, particularly for the beginner, a subtle thought that they can carry. Lama Kathy calls these thoughts housekeeping thoughts. So it's like you're asking yourself, is my meditation, is my house in order? That's a subtle thought. Like, so keep that in the back of how's this going? You know, that's particularly important for the new meditator. So it's like that. So mindfulness and alertness are terms often used in meditation. Mindfulness is simply that part of the mind. We don't want to get complicated here. Mindfulness in the context of meditation simply means that part of the mind that recollects the object of meditation. And the beginner has to develop a strong mindfulness. The other aspect of meditation is called alertness. Alertness is simply that knowing aspect of the mind. Again, very simple. When we are alert, we know what's going on. In the case of meditation, it is an alertness that recognizes when the mind is strayed. So, to make a long story short, if there's strong mindfulness, if we develop a strong recollection of the object of meditation, when obstacles occur, we will at once trigger alertness and you'll return to your breath. But whether it's dullness or agitation, we need to make a deliberate effort, not harsh, but deliberate effort to overcome these obstacles. There's nothing magical about returning to the object of your meditation. It's not going to happen unless you make it. And you make it through deliberate effort. As we know, meditative experience can be a bit of a seesaw. But through consistent effort, the peaks and the dullness of agitation will subside. At that point, when that does subside, those peaks, you begin to, by the way, my dog is in the background. I don't know if anyone can hear. My dog is in the background scratching at the door. I'm not going to let him in, let her in. It's Lucy. So she may bark here in a minute. We'll see. Where was it? Okay. So when those peaks of dullness and agitation start to level out, that's when the mind can begin to be settled and calm. And again, I emphasize it does take time and it does take effort. There's different kinds of people. There's people that take off all at once. When I was in retreat, I had two fellow retreatants. They just took off with meditation just right off the bat. They flew like eagles. And there are people like that take off quickly in their meditation. And then there are people that have ups and downs. You know, some days it's really good, some days it's not so good. And then there are people who don't see any apparent progress. They may go along for a long time, but then all of a sudden they take off. So there's those kind of folks, and you can sort of look at your own self and your own meditation and see where you might be in all of that. The point that I'll make is that in all cases, progress is made through diligence and consistent application, even if you take off initially. Sustaining that takes diligence and effort. Otherwise, you're going to backslide. Some additional thoughts about, I want to do some additional thoughts about meditation and meditation attitudes. In the prayer we read in the beginning of this talk, we mentioned detachment and devotion. I think there were slightly different words for that: a renunciation, detachment, and they also talked about devotion. So it says detachment in that prayer. Detachment is the foot of meditation, what gets us going. And devotion is the head of meditation. It's what also keeps us going. And it's sort of the end product, too, of meditation. And so having that put in such a monumental, important prayer, a prayer that Kebakata Rinpoche said at the beginning of every teaching session. So they are really important features. They are important features in that prayer. They're important features in our meditation. So let's take detachment as an attitude we want to develop as the feet of our meditation. Again, as I said, it's also translated as renunciation. And what we're renouncing, what we're detaching from, are worldly concerns. Now, there are levels of detachment. At the highest level, we have people like Milarepa. He had no worldly concerns. He didn't care where he slept or what he ate or what the weather was like outside. So we reverence those kind of folks. We reverence them and are in awe of them. The kind of renunciation they performed is, for us layfolk, unimaginable. Then there's another kind of renunciation that's done by monks and nuns. And they are bound by monastic rules, which are sort of guardrails that protect them from the extreme of worldly concerns. Then there are folks like us, layfolk, right? But that detachment still applies to us. We still have to work on not being so overly concerned about worldly matters. So this renunciation is for everybody, not just yogis or renunciates, but us also. So where do we begin this renunciation? Where do we begin this detachment? Well, it lies in meditation. How? In meditation, we drop worldly concerns. As I told you in the very beginning, we don't think about the past, which is usually filled with regrets. We don't think about the future, which also often involves anxieties. And we just drop all concern for the present. So that's how we begin in meditation to develop this sense of renunciation, this sense of detachment. As we learn through meditation, we can begin to carry that attitude into our daily lives. We take things a little lighter. We don't jump to react to things so quickly. That's how we develop within off the cushion. using this method of allowing a gap between action and stimulus and response, you might say. We don't react. The thought comes up, we don't engage it, we let go. And slowly, slowly, slowly over time, in the off the cushion events, we are more and more able to be less and less reactive, and as a result, more and more virtuous and less and less harming. So it's like it's a loop. You know, our meditation will help our non-reactivity off the cushion. Our non-reactivity off the cushion, our practice of virtue off the cushion will reinforce our meditation. It's really hard, as we've indicated, it's really hard to meditate if you've spent so much time being angry. But again, if that happens, it's part of, it's part of the upheavals that we experience habitually, and we have to learn slowly over time to overcome those. And I would point out to you, there was one of our lineage masters was a householder, Marpa. He was an extraordinary householder, but he was one nonetheless. Detachment is the foot of meditation. Next, we can speak of devotion. In the prayer, it says that devotion, it really applies to the guru who opens the gate to oral instructions. And this often is an example of a guru who teaches pointing out instructions. But it can apply not only to the guru, but in this case, it can apply to meditation. The same process that we apply to the guru, which is devotion, can be applied to, again, the meditation. So Mingyur Rinpoche says there are three aspects to devotion. And the first one is longing. We long to be near our guru. And in this case, we long for this calm, stable mind. So it's important, if we want to develop our meditation, to have this longing for a calm mind. That's important. That's a form of devotion. We have instructions coming down from our lineage masters. And we have to trust in the instructions and the teacher. So another part of devotion is trust. Mingyur Rinpoche says that. The second part of devotion is trust. We have these wonderful meditation instructors from these realized masters. And so we can trust them. And we trust them even though there are ups and downs. And it's because we trust, we persevere. Sometimes, hopefully in all cases, we start seeing progress. Real progress. We see the benefits of what we're doing. And in that case, as Mingyur Rinpoche points out, in that case, sincere, genuine devotion is fully developed to the practice. We're devoted to the practice. No problem now in terms of whether I have a habit or not. I'm devoted to it. I would do it no matter what. Finally, the prayer says that the main practice is an undistracted mind. And that's what we're aiming towards. A mind that is calm, a mind naturally resting within itself for the benefit of all beings. And this is shamatha. I've ended up on the hour. And if there are questions or thoughts or comments, something that may have irritated you, inspired you, or whatever, you can put them in chat. Are there any questions or thoughts?
The only thing in chat so far is a greeting at the beginning of the session. Oh,
Okay.
message just came in. From Ash, I find it much easier to meditate with Sangha. How can I transfer this sense of ease to home practice?
I think that's natural. I think that's natural.
Time out. Let me bring in the Chinese. I forgot to do that so that they can participate as well.
Sure.
说他发现说跟这个抱歉，Ash 刚刚问了一个问题，就是在他发现是跟这个出家众一起做禅修的时候，好像比较容易，那是不是这个是不是一个问题呢？老师？
Yeah. So I think that's natural. I think when we're in a group, we sort of our energy sort of bounces off of one another. And if there are veteran meditators amongst that crowd, that really changes the entire environment. You do. There is a greater sense, a greater ease in meditating. That's my experience. How do you take that home? I think by continued practice. I don't have any magic formula for that, but the only other thing I might suggest is, it might be that you need to be a little bit more intent. That might be something you could explore. And explore again, as we said before, how alert am I? How aware am I? And it's not that you want to duplicate what you did in group, but in your individual session, how alert am I? And also, how relaxed am I? How at ease am I? Those two things in balance. So I think first of all, what you say, Ash, is natural, and I think it's a different kind of situation when you're at home, and it's just simply you continue to work on it. There are other people, Ash, that actually when they are in group, they find it more difficult. So everyone's a little bit different, I think. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's my best stab at it.
OK， 刚刚他的回答就是说，基本上第一个就是这个是很正常的。当你在一个我们讲的说是出家众在里面，在禅修的时候，很容易，因为那边有很多的这些出家众，他们都是很高深的这个禅修者，在那种情况下，那种氛围下面，你比较容易进入状况，进入禅修的这个情况。那可是对于我们讲说在家的人来说呢，我们必须要注意到呢，要做到就是我们能够自己去想方设法的去看一看，去研究如何让我们自己能够在一个比较宽松，但是能够让我们的正念能够如实的升起。OK， 所以我要去研究，我们要去想方设法去看一看这个问题，然后这样才可以得到一个结论。 所以说第一个就是说，这个是很正常的，在这个寺庙里面修是很容易就达到你的心很稳定。第二个呢，就是说我们呢，在一个家里面呢，因为这个是不同的情况，所以说我们必须要持续的去这个做这个工作，努力，然后去看我们能够想方设法的找出一种方式，让我们的心也一样能够得到平静，一样能够得到宽松。老师 ，I'm done。
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah.
还有没有其他问题？
The next question is from Tom, Chicago KTC. What do you find is the best way to take your practice off the cushion and remain alert?
Well, I think one of the biggest, for me, the biggest tests of my meditation, how I carry it, is to allow a gap between whatever is stimulating me and what response I give. Because that's, for me, where I get in the most trouble, is if I respond too quickly without, allowing a certain amount of space and time. And I think that is a skill that you learn in meditation. I think it's also, slowing down a bit. It's paying attention to what you're doing on the spot. In Zen, they say, when I'm drinking tea, I'm drinking tea. So you're learning to be more aware of what you're doing. So much of our lives are lived mindlessly. On Sundays, I drive to Columbus to teach. That's about a 60-mile drive. And there are times when I wind up in Columbus and say, how did I get here in the first place? How does this happen? So much of our lives are wasted in mindlessness. So I think the answer to that question is to work on being less reactive. And the second part is to really pay attention, be aware of what you're doing. A wonderful world actually opens up to you when you pay attention to the simple things you do in life. Really, that's cliche, but it's really true. And I think probably everybody knows that. That's a good question, though. We're always looking to take meditation off the cushion. And I think, like we said, we reinforce meditation and taking it off by, first of all, off the cushion, by consciously cultivating virtue. That's what the Buddha said. Do no evil, do no harm, practice virtue, and train your mind. You can't train in virtue unless you've trained your mind. So one of the things you can do as a fruit of meditation is consciously cultivate the 6 paramitas. So that's what I'd say right now. That's also, we're all looking for that.
现在第二个问题是从这个芝加哥的 KTC 的 Tom 他提的一个问题，说如何我们将我们就是在禅修在座上禅修的这些放到这个坐下的禅修，它的重点是什么？它基本上是有讲2个。第一个就是说，我们就像是 在我们禅修的时候呢，常常会有一些这种状况或者是念头起来，那我们不要去对它立刻产生一种追随它。那这种情况发生了以后呢，就会有一个我们叫 gap， 会有个间隙。所以一个间隙以后呢，那能够看到那个间隙，这个是我们在当下，就是我们在这个禅修的这个坐下的时候，要注意的，或者说我们要在发展的这个一个这件事情。第二点呢，就是说我们在做的时候呢，当然我们就是不要去追随的这个念头，但是第二个就是要能够这个觉知上面呢，要能够抓得住，就是要能很敏锐的这个觉知，而且是很宽松的情况能够觉知。那在这个情况下呢，就是这两个点，就是第一个就是不去追随，第二个就是能够觉知，能够平稳的、很清晰的在那边一直跟着。例如说我在这个常常有时候去 KTC，Columbus，我可能去开这个60个 mile 到 KTC，然后呢，有时候我会觉得说，哎，我怎么知道怎么搞的？我现在就到这里。所以在这样过程中间，我开车的过程中间，因为有很多的妄念，这妄念呢不能控制，所以说我就常常就被这些妄念带跑了。所以在这边我就讲了第二点，就是说你要有一个觉知，就是我们在坐下的时候要有觉知。那觉知在什么地方重点呢？就是你就放在那些你平常上面呢很简单的东西，例如我们刚刚讲的呼吸之类的，你就把它放在第一上面，让你的觉知在这些很简单日常里面呢，常常碰到这些东西上面。那这样子的话，你就不会让你的心呢去分散出去。所以这两点，我认为是很重要的。然后呢，在另外一个我们要做的就是我们讲的佛教里面讲要断恶，要断恶，要修善，要调伏自心。那这里面呢，其实最重要就是调伏自心，因为不管你断恶修善，都需要调伏自心。那这个调伏自心呢，就是我们平常就是要能够让我们的心觉知在我们要怎么样断恶，要修善。那这边里面讲的这个断恶修善，我们讲就是这个六波罗蜜了，因为我们用这个六波罗蜜的方式来做这个断恶，跟这个修善的这个一个指标，这是其实上我们每一个人都需要做到的，然后这个问题事实上是一个非常好的问题，是我觉得我们每个人都需要去好好做到的。Okay, thank you. So,
The next question is in Chinese. So Lama Mark, we're going to need your help with that.
okay. Let me see. So, okay, let me read the Chinese first. 做呼吸禅修有调举的时候，是回到呼吸上。那么以佛像为对境的禅修，调举的时候如何处理 ？Okay, I'll translate it to English. So when we do the breathing meditation, and then we have a lot of thoughts. So the remedy is to come back to breathing. Okay. So, but if we do like, for example, using the Buddha statue, okay, if for that case, if we have a lot of thoughts happen, then what should we do? Thank you.
Yeah. So you do the same thing. The object is simply, you might say, an anchor for your meditation. It doesn't matter whether, you choose the object of meditation that fits you best, and you can sort of experiment with it. Most of us stick with the breath simply because it's with us, it's natural, it's not something foreign to us. But the meditation masters say you can also use a stick, a stone. You can use a Buddha statue, but the idea is not to dwell on the Buddha's qualities or think about how beautiful the statue is. It's just an anchor. And so, because of that, you simply, as an anchor, you simply return to it as the object of your meditation. But it's not, it's keep in mind, shamatha is non-conceptual. We're not going to think about the Buddha. Well, it's a sacred object, obviously, and has merit in being it's virtuous to use it as an object of meditation, but we're not thinking about it. We're just using it as an aid to our meditation. The important thing to keep in mind is meditation, shamatha is non-conceptual.
OK， 那这个地方呢，它答案实际上是说要注意的就是说，其实就是跟呼吸禅修一样，用佛像当对境的时候，它还是一个对境。但我们在修定的时候呢，就是当你有很多的这个妄念的时候，那当然你的心就跑掉了。所以呢，对治的方法就是再回来你的那个对境，像这个情况下就是你的佛像。那在这种情况下呢，我们不去想这个你的佛像啊，它是一个佛啊，它有什么功德啊，巴拉巴拉巴拉。那我们主要想的是，因为这个在定的里面呢，基本上是不去谈这些所谓的其他的这些概念的，不去，那只是回到，所以说只是回到你的对境。例如在这个情况下，就是看这个佛像。OK， 那当然说我们讲说平常的时候我们在做禅修的时候呢，有时候用呼吸是因为呼吸一直我们都一直在用嘛，所以说是随时都可以随手可及的。那在这个地方情况下呢，你讲用佛像或者是用佛像或者用小石头，佛像的话比较好的话，是因为它是一个我们讲是一个神圣的一个对境。但是不管怎么样呢，因为我们刚刚就讲到了，因为这是我们讲的这个是一个定的禅定的讲定的禅修，它基本上不谈这个概念，就是所以说它只是这个对境，这个佛像是个对境，你不会想说这个佛很美等等等等，所以说你只是想了一个对境以后呢，用来它让你的心专注到那里，那就好了。OK， 拉说。
The next question is, what is the third aspect of devotion?
Yeah, so this is Mingyur Rinpoche's delineation of devotion. He says it begins with longing. Then we develop some trust as a result of our practice. And then when we start seeing results, we have true devotion. So the third aspect is true devotion. And it's the same way with our gurus. We long for that guru that's going to point out the nature of our mind. We long for that. And then when we meet that guru and know it's our guru, we trust in what they say in terms of their instructions to help us to recognize the nature of our mind. And then finally, when we have gained that recognition, then we really are truly devoted to our guru. The fact of the matter is, for us who have had pointing out instructions from a guru, they are as more precious actually than the Buddha himself, simply because the Buddha is not around to give us those instructions, and that guru was. So again, to get back to the point, genuine devotion is the end product of devotion, of longing and trust. Hope that helps.
第三个问题是，到我们讲这个关于那个前进心的第三个部分的，他的意思是什么？他说这个地方是根据敏就仁波切所谈到的所谓的这个前进心的三个面向。第一个，我们讲就是渴望的心，例如说我们讲说我们在碰到我们的这个上师的时候，我们渴望希望能够看到这个上师能够得到我们这个心性的指引。那然后呢，到第二部分呢，我们就刚刚讲了这个，所以这个也是渴望。第二个呢，就是我们相信，也就是有了信心。因为呢，当我们的上师给我们这个信心、这个新的指引了以后呢，我们就知道了这个了解了，然后我们对这个上师就产生了信心。那第三个呢，是我们讲这个这样的问题，就是真正的这个前进性升起，因为我们已经从那边上师那边得到了，然后我们自己去练习了以后呢，真正的了解到了，那这个时候呢，我们对于这个上师他所说的话， 就完全的是相信了。所以在这个地方呢，就是讲的第三个点，就是真正前进心的升起，就是当第一、第二，然后真正的用到了以后，你对上师的心，对上师的指示就完全的相信。同样的，那时候你会升起，就哦，你的上师呢比佛还重要。为什么呢？因为上师还在这个世上给你讲。那我们所知道这个佛释迦牟尼佛已经离开了，所以呢，他当然这个上师就是指导我们的心性，当然比就是这个释迦牟尼佛来更为重要。所以同样的道理，在禅定中的第三个就是开始，你当然你有这个渴望，让你的心能够平静。第二个呢，你在这个戒的禅修中间，你逐渐的能够相信了这个禅修的这个利益。第三个呢，真正的当你的心借着禅修得到这些功德，你的心很平静，能够处理很多的事情的时候，你就对你的禅修真正产生了这个信心。那这就是所谓的第三点，就是你的前进心真正的产生。那说，
The next question is from Marianne. A common experience in meditation is being in a prolonged state of observation of the mind's relaxation. It lets go and lets go until the senses seem to dissipate, so that the awareness seems to go beyond the senses. I find it shocks me when it gets to the point of a sort of out-of-body feeling, that the awareness is an expansiveness beyond the body, beyond the room, beyond the building. Is that a dream creation within the meditation or a natural progression of meditation?
In the course of meditation, we're going to have all sorts of experiences. And it's like sometimes, when you're meditating and you do calm down a bit, it's like you've had this heavy burden on your back and you've let go of it. And so you're going to have different kind of experiences. My teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, said, that's fine. That's good that you had that experience. I'm glad. Now go back and meditate. The point being, we're all going to have some kinds of experiences, but they become a downfall. Because here's the deal. If I have this experience, then I want to have it again. And then I'm sitting down and I don't have it again, and I'm disappointed and I'm going to give up now because I didn't have this experience that I had before. Sometimes these experiences are like signposts that tell us, don't stop here. We're a sign that's going well, but don't stop here. I'm just a sign, keep going. So whatever experiences, and I'm just speaking from what Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche told me, don't get hung up on the experiences you may have along this journey towards a fully calm and quieted mind. There's much more to do. So it's okay that you've had that. That's good, but don't expect that that's going to happen again, nor should you. Expectations such as that just cultivate ultimately resentment. Why didn't I get that again? So my advice to you would be keep going and stay with the technique, stay with the practice, stay with all of that, and so keep going. And thank you for your question. It was a very good question. Well, I think by the
Lama Mark needs to translate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, 我现在就很快的把这个问题，就是他有一个人，他有一个很好的在禅修的经验，然后呢，那当这个禅修的好的经验发生以后，他觉得这个是不是一个 好的状况，就是说他感觉到这个身体就是好像出去了一样，就感觉到他的非常的这个广阔的这种心出现。那这个 Lama Tom 的他的解释就是说，这个当然是因为我们在禅修的时候会有很多的觉受。那这个 Campbell 卡瓦仁波切就是说很好，然后呢你继续禅修。所以就是说不管怎么样，我们对于这个禅修的各种经验呢，会有这些经验，但是我们不要停下来，我们不要执着它，继续往前进。OK，因为你一执着它呢，你可能就会失望，那这样子不好。所以说，就是在这种情况下呢，你就是再继续看你的禅修，继续看你的技巧，继续往前走。然后呢，这个问题很好，然后非常好，就是好了，说
Yeah, going back, I think, when we do have these good experiences, if we start grasping at them, they become a downfall.
然后说，如果说你对于这个好的这个禅修的经验呢，如果去执着它的话，你可能变成会一种缺失会产生。
So I see by the clock on the wall, it's about time to stop here. I'm going to do a short dedication. We won't do all the dedication prayers because I value your time, and I know we said we would stop at 9:30, and I intend to do that. So, if you want to translate.
OK，我们现在就因时间的关系呢，我现在就做一个很短的这个回向文。
So, by the merit of this getting together like this, thinking about meditation, by the merit of your sincere hearts that long for a mind that is calm, clear, and of benefit to all beings, by that merit, may we one day reach Buddhahood. And with that, we bring others, all beings, along with us. And we overcome, and by the same merit, may we overcome the ignorance of thinking that things are solid, real, and substantial. So from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from this ocean of samsara, this ocean of suffering, may you and I free all beings. May we free all beings. May we free all beings. Mark, if you want to translate that.
所以这个地方基本上就是说，我们希望能够以此功德验证佛之心。那自信在这边里面讲说，我们在这次里面呢，希望能够建立起一种比较这个透过禅修，我们来这边感谢大家能够有这个兴趣，建立一个比较平静的心，然后能够安住在这种本质上面，然后呢然后愿意利益大家的这个所有不止自己。而且利益产生的这种功德以后，能够利益大家，然后呢，让大家都能够都能够证到佛的果位，这样子的话呢，就是汹涌这种波涛生老病死的汹涌的波涛，愿度众生及速脱轮回海。老师
Thank you all so much for coming by. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Your questions were great. My hope is that you have many good meditations in the future. And as my teacher said, the best meditation is the meditation you just did, whatever that is. Thank you and good night.
非常感谢大家。
Thank you, Lama, for a wonderful teaching, and thank you, Lama Mark, for your translation. Look forward to seeing you all next week when the topic will be the skills, mindfulness, and alertness taught by Lama Kathy Wesley. And
下周就是关于这个正念的培养正念，是 Lama Kathy 会来跟大家讲授。
Again, good night.